What's up, everybody? Surprise, I'm not Stevie. It's the Luch. I'm here filling in this weekend. It's Labor Day weekend here in the States. I'm with my buddy, long time no see, TJ Zwarych. What's going on, man? Good to be back with you behind the mic here.
Nice to see you. Good to be here. It feels like I literally haven't seen you since last NFL season, and here we are with it being a week away. Finally get to link back up here. So even though it's not football we're talking about, it's baseball we're talking about. We are going to get a chance to link up later this week and talk a little football. So looking forward to diving into that. But in the meantime, we got 6 games of the little baseball slate to talk about.
Yeah, nice little comfortable 6-gamer. I like that number. I can't complain with that. A lot of games scattered throughout the day. It looks like DraftKings and FanDuel both kicking off at 6:40 Eastern. Like TJ said, football is top of mind for mostly everyone. It's an exciting week around the industry, and just obvious quick plug, but RotoGrinders has a lot on tap. I mean, plenty of shows, media. The written premium stuff is really, really good too. I'm super pumped to be back on Food for Thought on Monday with Chief, and maybe you'll be around, TJ. We'll see. We'll see if you're floating around behind the scenes somewhere. We could, pick your brain or put you on the spot for some picks.
I'll do my best throughout. I'm going to be producing a lot of NFL content like a lot of behind the scenes, not as much FaceTime as last year, but a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So I'm going to do my best to, not pop into every single show I'm on. But when it's you and Chief, I'm going to be making some appearances.
You're not going to be able to hold that mute button. I'm going to see your face pop up when we say something egregious, and you'll scold us or yell at us at one point or another, I'm sure. But what do you say we just jump right into it? What do you think? 640 ET. Looks like we have Detroit and San Diego. That's in San Diego. So a nice little 340 Pacific ball game for those folks out there in Cali. That's kind of cool. Joe Musgrove and looks like Ty Madden was rumored to start Sunday. Didn't look like that's going to happen. If we see him Monday, you got a 4K min pitcher. Obviously, that's a big deal for a number of reasons in this game that we play, especially on DraftKings. Now, what are your thoughts on a min-price pitcher in general? Some unknown about him. I mean, I got to check the FanDuel price and make sure he's in the pool here. But, of course, you like that min-price for tournaments. If he's on FanDuel and he's cheap, still think about, can he get me a quality start? Can he get me points for a win? You leave some more points on the table if you know a guy might not have the length or maybe even the skill set, the major league skill set, I should say, to maybe get there. It's tough.
In general, on FanDuel, I won't do it quite as much. On FanDuel, I usually just feel like I don't need to quite a bit. Plus, the quality start aspect does add a lot to it. On DraftKings, anytime there's a 4K pitcher with 75 plus pitch leash, I will do it basically every time, regardless of the matchup, regardless of the pitcher, just because it's baseball. And as long as you're able to pitch 80 plus pitches, if you'll throw strikes, then you can luck into 12, 15 points, which is just absolutely huge for that type of price tag. So in the context of it, always depends the context of the slate. I'm less likely to, try and get 12 out of a 12 out of a 4K pitcher. If there's a bunch of other pitchers on the slate, I could see getting 25 plus points. But if we're not super fond of the pitching anyways, or maybe there's an SP1 we really like, not a lot of SP2s, or tons of bats we want to spend up for, I will basically always take shots on the 4K pitcher, regardless of who it is. The interesting thing is when Madden was expected to start on Sunday, he was 5,500 on DraftKings. And so if he does get to start on Monday at 4K, that is a nice little discount we get for him. And as it stands right now, without diving too deep into the pitching pool, I think he's probably going to be a guy I get to a decent amount.
Yeah, he's 62 on FanDuel, still very cheap. Obviously, pricing's a bit different over there. Scores and odds is showing a game total of 8 right now, which it is reasonable. Musgrove and the Pods are 168 favorites on the money line. But we've seen worse, and it's not like that number's 10 or anything. I know that the Pods are juiced as favorites here, but you look at Ty Madden. He has shown some nice strikeout stuff in the minors. He did struggle in AAA when he was up. Listen, I mean, if you're looking for 4K upside, he threw 87 pitches against the White Sox in his last start, and that's awesome. That's what you want to see. again, it was the White Sox. He only struck out 2 of them. And those 2 Ks, I think, if I remember correctly from earlier when I was looking at his minor league game log from this year, was the second lowest, output in terms of Ks single game this year. There's not many guys you come up and expect to be, have Paul Skeens type stuff translate to the pros right away. But, only 2 Ks, not great. But, he survived. And, much tougher matchup here against the Padres, right? Super contact-oriented team. A little bit different of a situation here. It's tough. I'd like to see a PO number on him, but considering the small slate, like this guy is not going to be unowned, right? Like he's going to be an integral part of this slate. Ty Madden, right? You got to love DFS. Ty Madden, integral part of Monday's slate. So,
well, the thing is like people don't actually play the 4K pitchers that much. They get scared because they're not very good. But like, I haven't actually seen a very chalky 4K pitcher yet this year. People don't really like going there. So I going up against San Diego, I'd be willing to bet he's at most in the teens.
Yeah, that's probably right. Now, would I play him in cash games? Probably be a little, probably scary floor there. Probably going to pass. But in terms of tournaments, more prone, like you said earlier, I think this would be like a DraftKings tournament play for me. And would probably like to look elsewhere on FanDuel. Talk to me about the bats. And Joe Musgrove. Let me stop there. Musgrove, right? Pretty miserable start to the season. He was bad in spring training, right? Threw a gem against the Mets about a week ago, and then wasn't great against St. Louis. I mean, he survived, didn't have his best stuff. He's 8K, and of course, he has the Detroit matchup here that most people just kind of gravitate to. 8K flat on DK kind of seems like a cash play, and if you get different elsewhere, like I totally understand it for all formats.
Yeah, 8K for going up against Detroit. He's probably going to project as, I think, the best SP2 in this spot. I mean, we do have Simeon Woods Richardson, who we'll talk about later, who isn't very good, but he gets one of the best matchups you could ask for with this current Tampa Bay lineup. But I think Joe Musgrove at 8K, just because I never really liked playing 2024 Joe Musgrove. I'd much rather play 2021 Joe Musgrove, but I think you can get to him at 8K. I think he's probably going to project pretty darn well. The guy that I'm very interested in to see where the ownership kind of winds up on it, though, is Jared Jones, just because this is a guy who in that same range that we'll talk about a little bit later, but matchups a lot tougher. But I think like the pitching upside in terms of skill set is potentially higher too. So we'll get there when we get there. I think Musgrove is a very solid 8K SP2 option. It'll just depend on ownership for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Looking at the last month against right-handed pitching, San Diego's third in WRC plus, 15% K rate. I mean, just they've been tough outs, so tough draw for Ty Madden. Like this is not the White Sox matchup, especially with the way the Padres are clearly swinging the bat in the last 30 days or so for him. But that being said, like what's your interest level, hitter-wise in this game? What are your thoughts?
Well, kind of like skipping through Detroit quick. I don't think I got a ton of interest in stacking there, but I do think they make for really nice mini stack options with some of the lefties. They're just nowhere near as cheap as they have been. So if we get Jace Jung in there, he's probably going to be a nice cheap option. But outside of that, a lot of these guys have been priced up, so I probably won't get a ton of them. San Diego on the other side, I think will likely project as one of the top offenses on the slate. I do have a lot of tough time stacking them just because Machado, Merrill, Cronenworth are usually the only players I'd want to play there, but Cronenworth's had a really bad year and Profar has been really good. And I just have so much trouble clicking that price for Profar, even though he's more than paid it off all season. So I have a bit of a personal bias against stacking up San Diego, but I do think they're going to project as one of the top offenses on the slate.
Yeah, and I'm with. I like them as well. I'm hoping they're not too popular. We'll have to see like what our stacks tool is looking like in the morning and that kind of thing. And just touching on Detroit, like I'm a big Kerry Carpenter fan. I mean, if he didn't get hurt, he'd be on the cusp of a monster season. He missed a lot of time. I think it's 14 bombs in 66 games coming into Sunday, I think it was. And I'm with you. I think I'm more prone to mini stack Detroit, like you said. Carpenter's numbers against righties are nasty. 328 ISO, 427 WOBA, 19% barrel rate, 38% fly ball rate against righties this year. Like, it's exactly what you want to see. Someone who's barreling the ball, getting it in the air, and he's been really, really good when he's healthy. So, like, I'm gonna keep playing Kerry Carpenter in September in like any shape or form. Detroit's fun. They're just, you have Skubal. You got some guys who have flashed. Like, we've seen Carpenter, we've seen Riley Green, Parker Meadows, finally, like, maybe a consistent thing now. Trey Sweeney coming up. Torque was really bad for most of the year, though. I was a little disappointed in him, but I want to give Detroit a year and a half. Maybe they get another arm. I mean, at this point, I think we're all but giving up on Casey Mize, right? But a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, Casey Mize, Matt Manning, like, woof, just didn't really pan out. But I'm with you. I'm more of a mini stack for Detroit. I do like Carpenter a lot, and I do like the Padres as long as like ownership doesn't get completely out of control. Anything else in that game, or do you want to keep going?
That's it. Let's move it on to the next one.
Yeah, you mentioned Simeon Woods Richardson, so let's go to that game. Minnesota and Tampa Bay. And Woods Richardson, his xERA is like just a tad over 4. Doesn't strike out a ton of guys. But, man, this guy was in the minors for years, and you're just like, I've been watching him, waiting for him to kind of develop. And he got a couple cups of coffee the last couple of seasons. Even this year when he came up, I'm like, man, this isn't going to be good. But he's held the line. Like, he's done all right, and he gets some decent run support. Tampa Bay, just watered down, trade deadline. Like, things aren't great. Anyway, Zach, is it Little or Littell? Where do you accent?
Littell, I'm pretty sure. Littell,
that's what I was going to say. I don't know if you, a couple years ago on the if you were on the Dean show with me on Grinders Live when I pulled the Mark Cannon a couple years ago, Laurie Mark Cannon, But anyway, Zach Littell, just average to subpar pitcher in my opinion at the MLB level. Have a nice offense in Minnesota here going up against him. Should we start with the pitching? I mean, you mentioned Woods Richardson, so on this slate, pretty nice price on him, 6,500 on DK on FanDuel. I'll get you that momentarily, but tell me your thoughts on here. You got some mild or extreme interest in Woods Richardson?
Yeah, Littell, I think, is just an easy X out. Not going to be playing him there at all, basically. But Woods Richardson at 6,500 against Tampa, he's like he might just luck into some strikeouts because they're so bad. But then 6,500 for a guy that just throws strikes all the time, pretty good when you're not worried about anybody hitting the ball out of the park, right? Like he's done a good job of limiting hard contact. He doesn't give up a ton of home runs. And it's basically just if BABIP goes well for him, he has a good game. If BABIP doesn't go well for him, he doesn't. But against Tampa Bay, I think there's a good chance he could lock into a few strikeouts. And then if BABIP goes his way, that all of a sudden it could be 7-8 innings type of thing. So I do think Woods Richardson is very viable today.
This time of year, I'm just so used to Tampa Bay being pesky, being a tough out, whether they're leading the division or they're just one of the wild card slots, and it's just so strange that it's here in September and we're picking on them now. But last 30 days, third worst in WRC plus, second highest K rate in the league against right-handed pitching. Things are not good. You'll turn on Plate IQ Monday for those of you that are subscribers, and you'll see a sea of red in the K percentage column. Like, you worry about a couple long balls, but I'm with you. I think Woods Richardson has a high chance at not only surviving, but maybe being an optimal per dollar play on this one, man.
If you already looked at it, then never mind. But what do you think Woods Richardson's barrel rate to lefties is this year?
Barrel rate? No, I haven't. I'm assuming it's good since we're like touting him up here a little. I don't know. Let's say 7%.
6.9.
Wow. Not bad.
So
okay, what's about the righties? I don't have it up in front of me.
10.9. So
okay.
Not horrific, or 10.5. So not horrific, but not good either.
Yeah, and I mean the righties in that lineup, contact oriented. Yandy Diaz, fine. Junior Caminero, man, what a stud he's probably going to be. Finally hit a home run over the weekend. He's a little scary, I guess. Christopher Morel is just
maybe Morel gets a home run in this spot.
Maybe, but he's been so disappointing since he's been dealt. But he's been a reverse splits guy, so maybe this is one of those slates, 6 games. You wanna play a solo shot against a cheap pitcher kind of thing. I'm not going to argue with you if you said, you know what, I'm going to throw Woods Richardson and maybe Morel as a complete one-off against them. I'm okay with that.
On the bat side of things, I will basically just X out Tampa as I do every night. I'm never worried about Tampa Bay beating me, but I don't mind the Twins bats. Like Zach Littell's been pretty trash against lefties this year, 50.5 hard hit rate. Not like he just throws the ball down the middle and people are hitting it in the air and hammering line drives. So the Twins are a much more dangerous offense than Tampa. Littell and Woods Richardson are almost the same guy. But on the Minnesota side of things, I think Matt Wallner is going to be one of the top value power hunting plays on the slate. But then like the full stack of Lewis, Larnack, Jeffers, any of Castro, anybody that's in the lineup, I think is in play in this spot, except for maybe the pinch hit guys like Julien.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the Twins. I mean, Royce Lewis just changes the game for this lineup when he's healthy. And man, can we get 160 games out of this guy one of these years? I just want to see what he could do.
Probably not.
Probably not. No, you're probably right. But you combine him, he borderline matchup proof at this point, right? Righty, lefty, I don't really care. But obviously the Twins are one of those teams that they'll platoon the hell out of you, right? So, of course, there's always a little 8th inning-ish pinch hit risk when you're playing someone in Minnesota, much like when you're playing anybody on the Giants. Like you just have to know you're probably not getting 5 at-bats out of some of these guys. But if they do the damage early, I'm with you. I'm a big Matt Wallner guy. 330 plus ISO against righties this year. I mean, just absolutely mauling the baseball. So I don't know. I kind of want to see tomorrow, like where ownership shakes out between the Twins and the Padres. I'm not looking to get super nuts on this 6-gamer, but I like both. I like both stacks. Like at least right now, looking at this, talking it through, maybe I'll play the one that's going to be lower owned and call it a Labor Day Monday and move on. But other than that, I think that's really it for me here. Anything else on this one?
No, I think we can move on to the next one, which will likely be pretty quick too, because I think I love a 6-game slate. You can just get the whole show done in like 30 minutes. But I think we can move on to the next one where I'm likely going to just be Xing out both sides in terms of bats. So let's do it.
Yeah. And how good is Osvaldo Bido been? Like he's been much better than I would have ever dreamt. And he's throwing 90 to 100 pitches if he's rolling. He has one blip against the Angels the end of July, but other than that, he hasn't given up more than 2 earned runs in any outing since May. And I know some of those were just, relief or bulk work or whatever. But come on. I mean, we gotta give this guy some flowers, right? And
you only have to pitch Beto and Mason Miller. All of a sudden, you're looking like a pretty good pitching staff.
But the algorithms have caught up. He's 8,600. It's not like he's 62 or in Simeon Woods Richardson territory here. However, he gets that Seattle matchup. Are you still picking on Seattle in September of 2024 for K's anyway?
So yeah, Beto against Seattle. I do think he's very much in play at 8,600. Going to be an ownership dependent play for me. Like I will like him better than Musgrove if Musgrove's significantly higher owned. But Beto, Jones, Musgrove are going to be very much dependent on where the ownership stacks up for me. The Gilbert side of things, I've been really high on the Oakland lineup lately. They've been absolutely smashing. And so Gilbert at 9,600, I think he'll probably end up projecting as the highest raw points pitcher on the slate, but he doesn't have a very high K rate. Oakland has been a strong offense. If he's going to be chalky, he's going to be somebody I'm going to hit that. I'm going to fade and likely just play some cheaper pitchers. Beto, Seattle's not as good of a matchup as they were earlier in the year. They're getting a little bit healthier. They got more guys in there, but they still do have a lot of strikeouts. I think at 8,600, I doubt he's going to be very chalky because I think people are going to have a little bit of a sticker shock. And so I think I'm going to like him for tournaments.
Yeah, Logan Gilbert's been great. When he gets hit hard, like kind of like Pablo Lopez. Like when Pablo Lopez is getting hit hard and BABIP, like it's like the perfect storm. It's the cyclone. So usually when I'm talking about what I would do in single entry. I'm not sure if I would stack Oakland in a single entry, but if Gilbert's carrying some ownership and I'm playing like a 3 max or some low dollar, like I'll play some A's. And you're right. Oakland's been fun. They were on that horrid stretch, like right around the All-Star break, and they've cooled off, but like them cooling off is their 12th in WRC plus in the last 30 days, which is obviously still like top third-ish of the league, 13th in ISO. They've been an above average offense, the past 30 days, even after that little heater they've been on. So speaking about Oakland being fun, Lawrence Butler really coming into his zone. I like him at the top. Has some
little Blade Butler mini stack, I think would be the way I'd want to attack that if I were to play them. It's just like, as much as I don't really want to play Gilbert against them, I don't really want to play them against Gilbert either.
No, I get that. If I'm playing one lineup, I'm playing the 121 or the 254 max or something like that, like probably not going to play, go crazy in Oakland. I mean, Gilbert's been as good as advertised. 3.13 xERA is like just right in line with his actual ERA. So I'm with you. He just has those games like once every 5 or 6 weeks where you're like, where the hell did that come from? Right? Where are these 6 earned runs? How did this happen? And things tend to be a little more anything goes on a 6 gamer. So we'll see.
If I build a lineup and it has 3,700 left, I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to plug in Lawrence Butler. But if I have more than that, don't get me wrong, I'm playing Matt Wallner. But I'm not changing anything around if I have to play a $3,700 Lawrence Butler at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a really good price for him. Zach Geloff is a guy who was really disappointing and still kind of underperforming, but 16 homers. He's kind of been a reverse splits hitter the last couple of seasons. So if second base is tough tomorrow, like if you don't want to pay 51 for Brandon Lau or $5K for Simeon against Garrett Cole, even Gleyber Torres is north of 4K now. Like I'm okay with using him even as a one-off, just hoping you get that, reverse splits bomb off Gilbert. He's had a couple of nice games in the last 10 days or so. So also right in that Butler price range is obviously a different position. So 2 cheaper options there we like between Butler and Zach Geloff here at second base. I'm with you. Don't really have any interest in Seattle bats. I mean, depending on what catcher looks like on a given slate, you can play the big dumper, any day of the week, and I will not ask any questions, right? But mostly probably a pass for me.
Yep, agreed.
7:10 Eastern, Boston at New York. The Mets. Brian Bello at Luis Severino. Well, Brian Bello, huge extension in the offseason. Pretty disappointing, right? Like you don't pay someone that kind of money to have a 4.6 ERA and a whip that's almost 1.4. But boy, did he shove against your Blue Jays. So there's that. Where'd that come from? Did you watch any of that game by any chance?
The Blue Jays are just one of those teams that, no, I haven't watched the Blue Jays game since like the second month of the season. But I've been following all the games. But they've been that way all year where it's like they'll just randomly let Ronel Blanco throw a no-hitter against them and they're just absolutely trash. But for the most part, all season, they have not been a team we want to target with pitching just because they don't strike out. But every now and then they just have a game where nobody can hit a ball. I think Bayo is a little bit interesting because he pitches most of his games at home in Fenway, and now he's going to the Citi Field, which is a big park upgrade for pitchers. He is way worse to lefties, like egregiously bad to left-handed bats this season. And outside of Nimmo and Lindor, there's not really any lefties we're worried about there. It's much more the right-handed pitching for them. So at 7,200, I don't think he's great, but I think Bayo is absolutely in play. And if we're going to see, say, Musgrove and Woods Richardson, say if they're both 30+% owned and Bayo is 8, I'll play him. I'll play some Bayo.
What do you think about Severino? Just similar price range, kind of feels like the same type of pitcher at this point of his career. Like not a lot of K stuff, but obviously, like I mean, Boston is not like the powerhouse they've been, but getting Casas back in the lineup definitely helps.
Against righties, there I don't touch any team. I don't play pitchers against Boston.
Yeah, I mean, they were really bad at lefties against. Oh, they had a high K rate against lefties.
Yeah,
still hit some bombs against them though. So I think I'd like in that price range, I'd rather still play Woods Richardson than Severino on Monday. I think that's where I'm at.
Agreed. I'd rather go above to Bale or below to Woods Richardson. I'll still play left-handed pitchers against Boston, but no righties.
That being said, so like any Sox, Devers is a given. Can I play Rafael Devers? They say you can play Rafael Devers 10 days a week, honestly, any format, right? Amazing. But outside of him, I guess, any interest in any of these guys here for the Sox?
Yeah, I think they're interesting for a full stack just because they have a wide range of strong pay-up options all the way down to some decent cheapies. And so Devers and Duran, obviously the top options. But O'Neill, Casas, I've been loving playing Casas. He always goes super low owned just because I think people are used to him being cheaper. But Abreu and Ishida, both two lefties in good spots, and Wong or Jansen, whichever catcher is in there, I think is in a decent spot, especially if it's Jansen at only 9,600. I probably won't stack the weaker back end guys very much, but Duran, Devers, O'Neill, Casas, Abreu, Yoshida, Jansen, I all really like in this spot.
Yeah, Abreu 3,100 on FanDuel is a really nice price, I think, in this matchup. He's 41 on DK. Pretty nice difference there. You can still get Tyler O'Neill pretty cheap as well, 3,400. Homered over the weekend. And once against your Blue Jays last week, too. So I'm with you. It seems like you can, at least on FanDuel, you can comfortably stack Boston and not worry too much about salary. And you're right, 3,200 for Casas as well in the lineup. I think it's just a huge boost to that team as well. Sneaky little stack for Boston against Severino, who, to his credit, was pretty good most of the year for the expectations that probably most had at this point of his career for him. Like you mentioned earlier, a little bit of downgrade for the bats for the park, but I like Boston as well. Sneaky, little sneaky stack, I think, especially with some of these other like low-end pitchers on the slate. Maybe they come in at like third in stack ownership. I'd be fine with that. Pittsburgh, Chicago. Should we do that one?
Yeah, brief touch on the Mets bats. I don't think I'll be full stacking them much, but it's only a 6-game slate, so you can. I'd be more apt to just play Lindor or Alonso. Sorry, Lindor or Nimmo, but you can always play Alonso too.
Yeah. I think lefties, like you said, you highlighted that lefties are the way to go against Bayo. And those are probably my two favorite bats. We've seen Jeff McNeil break a couple slates this summer, so I mean. I can't, second base, like just looking at, I know I'm like jumping ahead here a little bit, but don't really want to pay up at second base tomorrow. I don't think so. I don't mind going McNeil, maybe not as a one-off, but if I had another Met like Nimmo or someone else, like you said, maybe I'd go that route as well. Jared Jones, Jameson Taillon, a little revenge game for Jameson Taillon, his former team. You mentioned Jared Jones earlier. Talk to me about the kid.
He's just a guy that looked really, really good earlier in the season, then started dealing with some injury problems, was awful. He took some time away, and then in his first game back, he threw 83 pitches, which I thought was a pretty nice sign. Gave up 5 earned runs and 2 home runs, which was not a nice sign. Only 4 Ks there. Literally just a guy that I would take a shot on in an MME setting just because I think the talent is there. But it's really going to depend a lot on the weather in Wrigley. If we get wind blowing in, I'll take shots on the pitchers. If we get wind blowing out, well, this guy gave up 2 home runs last game, so I'll be going right back to the well.
Well, right now, I'm looking at scores and odds. Let me hit a refresh quick. Right now, it's a 7.5 game total. So I think
probably wind blowing in.
Yeah, I think like by now, It's what we're like almost 9:00 here on the East Coast. We'd see some movement, or the books just wouldn't have been had. Like they were had a couple times earlier in the year in a couple of those weather games. But yeah, we're seeing 7.5. I'm seeing juiced on the under too, right on everywhere. I'm seeing that's a pretty strong indicator that we're going to see some pitching weather in Wrigley tomorrow night, I would assume. I mean, damn. So Jared Jones, we'll see. Knowing that, how much of a factor do you and steam across the industry, right? There's a full day worth of media to consume across the industry. Is Jones the guy that could get steamed up, or you think people are still going to pump the brakes on him?
I would think Tyon would be more likely to get steamed up, if anything. I think people want to wait and see on Jones for him to be good first.
Yeah, obviously, big price difference, like 69 for Tyon, 84 for Jones. To the Cubs' credit, they were much better in the month of August than I realized, at least against righties. 8th in WRC plus. They had the 5th lowest K rate. So I don't know. The weird correlation. They dump Christopher Morel, right, and suddenly get better. I don't know, but they've been holding their own, at least against righties. But I'm with you. I mean, we know the upside for Jared Jones. You mentioned his pitch count in the 80s. If things are going well, can we see 90? I think why not, right? If you're willing to let him go 84, 85, or whatever it was. So that's a really greasy GPP play, and I love it on the 6-game slate for sure. I mean, look at his peers. Osvaldo Bido. I know we talked him up. He's been great this year.
We're talking about playing Bido, Musgrove, Tyon, Woods, Richardson, and Ty Madden.
Right. And two of those guys are probably going to be chalk. Whoever, maybe it's Bido against the Mariners. I mean, he's priced up a little bit, but I mean, Woods, Richardson, I feel like people are going to gravitate to him against that Tampa matchup down in that cheap range, and rightfully so. I mean, we talked about it. It's a nice spot for him, but Jared Jones, 10%, maybe less. I would take that.
He's probably going to suck, but he might be back. Who knows? Eventually, he'll have a good game.
But isn't that that's he's probably going to suck? You don't want to play people who are probably going to suck, but if you think there's a 1 in 3 chance he doesn't suck at 10%, that's strong enough for me to sprinkle in. So is that what your suck meter's at? 1 in 3 chance he doesn't? As
long as the suck percentage is lower than the ownership percentage, I will still play them.
I wish I had Roth on speed dial. I would call him up live and be like, "Yo, Wrigley weather now, need you." Are you around?
in the midst of putting his children to bed?
Yeah, there's no sleep in DFS. He knows that though. Yeah, but so definitely check out Roth's weather forecast tomorrow. He's been awesome at putting that stuff out early. And if there is some kind of edge in that Wrigley Field game, you will know by checking out his stuff. Bats in that one. I mean, that being said, you have one pitcher you're high on. The weather looks like it's pitching weather. I'm assuming you're not interested in stacking either one of these teams.
No, I think if I were to stack one of them, it would be the Cubs, just because Jones has given up a lot of hard hits, a lot of home runs. Even if the wind is flowing in, it doesn't matter if you're hitting at 450 feet. So it's a 6-game slate. I think I'd be a little interested in the Cubs. Pittsburgh, probably not, outside of maybe O'Neill Cruz or Brian Reynolds.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one.
Typically, I'd say no interest. It's only a 6-game slate.
Yankees, Rangers, the late night hammer. Garrett Cole and Jack Leiter. What's with all these young pitchers getting a White Sox matchup their last turnaround? We saw him pitch. We saw Leiter pitch against the Sox. 4 innings, 2 walks, 4 Ks, 6 hits. Control has been his biggest foe at the major league level, and it's been ugly. Good to see him survive 4 innings against the Sox. That was good to see. Again, the Yankees are a different animal than the White Sox, much like our conversation earlier about Ty Madden, who had the Tigers. Now he has San Diego. So Yankees, what do we know about them besides Aaron Judge and Juan Soto? One of the most patient teams in baseball. A little concerning that for later, and we might see some bullpen work early for the Rangers as is my best guess here. Garrett Cole on the bump against Texas. The Rangers, defending champs, been pretty underwhelming this year. Either way, it's not like the Rangers are a pushover matchup. Garrett Cole is 9K flat on DK. And that's about all I got for you. What's your take here?
It's going to be very interesting to see where ownership lines up on Garrett Cole, because I think he is undoubtedly the highest ceiling pitcher on the slate. I think he's got the most upside. It's just Texas is the toughest matchup of all the other pitchers in that range as well. So I think Gilbert's probably safer. I think Bido's probably safer. I think Musgrove's probably safer. But I think Garrett Cole is the only pitcher on the slate who, maybe outside of Gilbert, who I think has a legit chance of going over 30 fantasy points on DraftKings. So I'm going to be interested to see where ownership goes, but I think I would feel comfortable calling Cole the top overall pitcher on the slate. Lighter, obviously, we're not touching. And the Yankees, I think, are by far the top offense on the slate. The only thing that potentially is going to hold them back is ownership, because it's not going to be price. It's Aaron Judge 7K and Juan Soto 6,500. But guess what? It's not very hard to play them when I'm plugging in. Even if I want to play Garrett Cole and I don't want to play the crappy 4K pitcher, I can play Cole, Woods, Richardson, Judge, and Soto and still have 3,500 remaining for the rest of my positions. It's not hard at all to get them today. So they're likely going to be chalky. I would probably want to avoid a Soto or Judge one-off if they're going to be 30% owned on a 6-game slate. But if they're not, because people see 7K and they're like, I can't do that, I want to play Cole and Gilbert together, then I'm going to be loading up on the cheap pitchers and playing as much Aaron Judge as I can.
Yeah, and it's not like Leiter has been plagued by control issues. He's only had 4 starts, but he had a cup of coffee in April, walked 3 3 2/3. Then he had a pretty clean game against Oakland. That was before Oakland decided to play baseball this year. There's that stretch where they were still terrible earlier in the year, and then pre-All-Star break, Oakland just started hammering.
The thing is, it's like he's striking out 11% of right-handed bats with a 52% hard hit rate. If he's not throwing it, and I get the sample is small, but if he's not intentionally walking Aaron Judge, if he throws a pitch in the zone, it will go out of the park.
Yeah. And he's had massive K stuff in the minors, but we see it time and time again where that stuff does not translate quickly. And for some guys, it doesn't at all. Gavin Williams finally kind of getting going. He reminds me of the situation where just wasn't striking out anybody for a while, getting hit around a little bit, finally starting to figure it out. Hopefully Leiter's a late bloomer. I mean, he was obviously a highly touted prospect if you've been following the prospect streets the last couple of years, but would be cool for him to get it together. Just I don't know if there's a tougher draw for him and his current flaws than the Yankees right now. And I will say this, the Yankees have played up and down to their competition. I wouldn't be shocked if they hung 10 on Leiter and the Rangers. I guess I'd be a little shocked if Leiter threw 5 innings with no run ball, but if he survived, I wouldn't be wow, I can't believe that's what the Yankees do, man. They'll play great against the good teams and play terrible against the bad ones. And it is what it is. But Garrett Cole is in a fascinating spot. You're right about that. Just because the Rangers have underwhelmed doesn't mean they're a bad team. They're still an average to slightly below average, strikeout team in terms of hunting for Ks. And you still, what does Garrett Cole do? He loves giving up a couple solo shots, right? So you still have to worry about Corey Seager. You still have to worry about Simeon, who's a reverse splits guy. Kind of like Aaron Nola in that regard. Can be great, but he might give up 2 or 3 solo shots. So the Rangers are a team that I'm not trying to stack, but on this small slate, if you want to play Seager, you want to play a one-off power guy, you want to play Nate Lowe, go for it. I'm okay with the power single bats against Garrett Cole.
Yeah, especially the lefties, a little Seager, Lowe, mini stack. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, and I know Cole's last 2 starts were pretty pedestrian, but Cleveland and Washington, there's the context. 2 of the lowest K, highest contact oriented teams in the league, and it's not like Cole's 10K, right? He's 9K, and I feel whenever we get whenever we get like I don't know, George Kirby at that price or someone like that, he's like 40%. And for some reason, like I don't think Cole's going to get that treatment on Monday. I don't think he's going to be super chalk. We'll see. I mean, I think he's going to be owned. Don't get me wrong, but
who do you think comes in higher owned, Gilbert or Cole?
Gilbert.
I think they're both going to be around 30 to 35.
Yeah. We're talking DK. Oh, let me check FanDuel. Hold on. Just want a note of the prices on FanDuel. I mean, Gilbert's 10.5 and Cole's 10 on FanDuel.
So yeah, I bet on FanDuel it'll probably be Gilbert higher owned for sure then.
It's definitely worth noting the massive difference in Brian Bayo on FanDuel, 8,800. And he's 72 on DK. I mean, yeah, I know six game slate anything goes, but I'm assuming you'd much rather play him on DraftKings than FanDuel at that price, right?
I mean, yeah, I barely want to play him on DraftKings, so
that's true. But Jared Jones, 8,500, still kind of smack dab in the middle of everything there. And I mean, it wasn't long ago where this guy had more hype than Paul Skeens, and then Paul Skeens came up, and we'll see if that staff can hold it together. They're going to be fun. You got any Rangers bats thoughts?
No, Seager is fine. Nate Lowe, totally fine. And maybe little Josh Smith, the lefty's in there for some power. But that is about it. Since you haven't been here in a while, though, I got you for the morning grind game because I finally remember what it is and I got all the questions down. So pitcher above 8K to bust today. Who do you think is going to have not 5X above 8K?
Not 5X. This one's gonna bite me. I'll go Logan Gilbert.
Logan Gilbert. I will go Jared Jones then. I think the upside is there, but I think the downside is.
I did not see that one coming.
The only other option, it's not Cole or Beto. That's the only other pitchers.
Wait, does Musgrove count at 8K flat or no? Is that?
I mean, he could if we want him to, but I still think Musgrove is probably less likely to bust than Jones. Jones, I think, is high bust rate. I just think the boom rate is high too.
I agree. Pitcher, we can't pick the same person. Is that's the rule?
Yes. Yeah. Can't pick the same person.
Okay.
Pitcher below 8K to get 5 or more strikeouts.
All right, I'll let you go first this time since I took your first answer.
I will go.
Woof. That's all I'm going to say.
I like these guys to maybe eat some innings, but I don't think Tyon, Woods Richardson are really going to be K guys. I think the most likely one would probably be Bayo.
I'll go Woods Richardson. I'll go with that watered down Christopher Morel stinks now high K lineup and hope he gets 5+.
Who do you got not named Aaron Judge over 4K to hit a home run?
Ooh, baby. Man, I wish I had a little more time for my little plate IQ research. Over 4K to hit a home run. Hold, please. Got any good hold?
I got your answer right there. I know who you want to pick.
You think you know who I want to pick?
4,600. You talked him up.
Oh, Carey. Yeah. Could be. You know what? I'm gonna go with Jackson Merrill. I like Merrill tomorrow against Ty Madden. I don't dislike Kerry Carpenter. I like Kerry Carpenter every slate. No questions asked. Just want to clarify that.
I'll go Jazz for that one. I think Jazz is going to hit a dong in this one. Who you got under 4K to get 2 or more hits?
2 or more hits. That's a good one. Let's see. How about Ben Rice getting sent down, by the way? The Ben Rice Linsanity run is well over. Under 4K. Let's go. Damn, that's tough. I feel like I'm gonna steal. Actually, no, I got an off the grid one. Connor Wong. Let's go, Connor Wong.
I like it. I will stick with somebody in the same game and go Masataka Yoshida. They've been bumping him up near the top of the lineup at 2. So I would go.
So if you're picking him for 2 hits and I'm picking Wong for 2 hits, that's 4 hits. think we got to stack Boston now.
We might have to stack Boston a little bit. I was actually gonna pick Lawrence Butler, but then I pivoted at the last second to Yoshida because he has been batting second lately. Finally, stack to score 6 or more runs. Who do you got?
Is the Yankees a cop out? Can I say the Yankees?
You can. It's the right answer.
It's the right answer. All right. So how about we like cop out the Yankees? Someone other than the Yankees, I'm gonna go with San Diego.
All right, I will go with Boston. But I think Boston, San Diego, New York are probably the top 3 stacks on the slate, with New York being the top option by a fairly wide margin. Anything else from you before we get out of here? If you're listening to this in the morning on Monday, you only got to wait a couple hours for the debut of the Food for Thought pod with Luch and Chief. I'll be behind the scenes for the first week producing that one. Anything else for the people? Where can they find you on socials?
Oh, yeah. Check me out at the J Carliucci. Pumped for this episode of Food for Thought because we don't have a previous week to like review and get off the rails. We have an entire offseason that we're going to be fairly structured. Don't worry. I said fairly structured, but there is so much going on in the NFL. People holding out. What's Jamar Chase going to do? I mean, the almost tragic Ricky Pearsall story over the weekend just absolutely took me off guard, and hoping and praying for him to have a speedy recovery. Last thing I've seen with him, it seems like things are trending in the right direction, but it's kickoff week. We have 2 games, Thursday, Friday, and the drama and the just insanity has not stopped, and the season hasn't even started yet. So I'm excited for Food for Thought. That's about it. Thanks for sticking with me, TJ.
Absolutely. And brand new debut of the live show for Food for Thought. So make sure you check that one out as well. It'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern time on the RotoGrinders YouTube page. And then, of course, more Grinders Live and Crunch Time coming later in the day as well. All right. Well, I'm gonna actually just steal the outro from you because it feels right since I did the morning grind game, and I control when the stream ends since I'm producing. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. On behalf of myself and Luch, we'll see you again soon. Peace out.